I never should have gone inside that cave. Even now, years later, I can still smell the dust and blood when I think about it. Back in late August of 2012, our unit was stationed just outside Kandahar, and I was running night rotations with a squad that had been running thin for weeks. We spent most days cooking under the sun, sweating through our uniforms, choking on grit carried by the wind. Nights were supposed to be easier, but they never were. You'd sit on a watch post with the desert stretched out in silence, pretending not to notice how every shadow seemed to move. "Stop staring at the ridgeline," Sergeant Davis muttered one evening while we smoked in the pit. "Locals say those caves are cursed. You keep looking, you'll spook yourself." Private Miller chuckled, shaking his head. "Cursed? Man, it's just caves, rocks and bats. Don't overthink it." I didn't laugh. The Afghan interpreter had warned us too many times to stay away from the ridges. He said entire groups went in and never came back. He said the mountains belonged to something older than us. We chalked it up as superstition, but when the jokes ended, the silence always felt heavier. That week, Command assigned us recon on the southern slope. Standard sweep, nothing special. But the caves were on the route, and nobody liked it. We geared up at 1900 hours. The sun was dropping fast, bleeding red across the desert, the kind of light that made everything feel wrong. I checked my rifle twice, pulled straps tight against my shoulders. My stomach felt hollow. Corporal Harris glanced at me. "You good?" "Yeah," I lied. We moved in formation, spread just enough to cover angles. Boots crunched on gravel, radios hissed with short bursts of static. The desert had cooled fast, the heat dropping into a biting chill that crept through the gear. The moon was up, bright enough to carve long, jagged shadows across the rocks. Davis called over the net, "Stay sharp, keep eyes open. No chatter unless it's real." We pressed on. My thoughts kept circling back to the warnings, to the way the villagers avoided even looking toward the mountains. I told myself it was just nerves, but the silence was wrong. Too wrong. Half a mile from the ridge, the wind died. Just stopped. No grit in the air, no hiss across the rocks. It felt like someone had killed the sound altogether. Miller broke the quiet, his voice low. "That's not normal." "Shut it," Davis snapped. "Keep moving." I caught a faint smell then, metallic and sharp, like copper pennies pressed to my nose. It cut through the dust and sweat, and I knew it wasn't the desert. It smelled like blood. We kept walking, rifles up, scanning. Every crunch of boots felt too loud. Sweat ran cold down my back, even though the air had turned cool. Then Miller froze. Movement. At the cave mouth. We all stopped, rifles aimed. Through the NVGs, the opening was just black stone, nothing moving. But Miller swore again, more urgent. I saw it, tall as hell, just standing there. Harris checked his scope. "Negative. Nothing but rock. You're seeing things." The radios hissed, static building like a bad signal, even though comms had been clear minutes before. Davis cursed under his breath. "Stay tight, keep eyes forward." I wanted to believe Harris. I wanted to think it was just nerves, shadows playing tricks. But the silence pressed in so heavy, it felt like the world was holding its breath. And then I noticed it. A faint trail in the dirt near the cave mouth. Not tracks like ours. Longer. Wider. I felt my throat tighten. "Sergeant, you need to see this." Davis stepped over, crouched low. He traced one of the impressions with a gloved hand, his jaw tightening. He didn't say a word. Just stood, adjusted his rifle, and motioned us forward. My chest felt hollow. My mind screamed at me to turn back. But orders were orders. And so we walked straight toward that cave. Straight into the silence. Straight into something waiting for us. The cave swallowed our light the second we crossed the threshold. The desert behind us faded into nothing. The moon cut off like a switch. My rifle light pushed out in a narrow beam, but it felt weak, like the dark was eating it alive. The air changed too. It was cooler, damp, and carried that metallic tang I couldn't shake. It clung to my tongue and made every breath taste like rust. My skin prickled under my vest, and the silence pressed so hard against my ears I swore I could hear my own blood moving. "Spread 2 meters, Davis ordered, his voice low. "Watch corners. This isn't a tourist walk." Miller's voice cracked. "It smells like a slaughterhouse." Harris snapped back. "Shut up and cover your sector." I wanted to agree with Miller. The smell was wrong, heavy, and every step deeper made it stronger. My boots scuffed against smooth rock, not natural, like it had been carved out by hands. The walls felt too even, too straight. "Sergeant," I whispered, my beam sliding over the stone. "These aren't just caves. Someone made this." Davis didn't look back. Eyes forward, "Don't start." We pushed on. My shoulders tightened with every step, waiting for something to move in the beam. Harris halted suddenly, one fist raised, and we froze in place. The sound of our own breathing filled the tunnel. "Contact?" Davis asked. Harris leaned forward, shining his light on the ground. "Bones." At first I thought animal, scattered and cracked, but then I saw fabric, torn boots, the faded strap of a helmet. My gut dropped. "Jesus Christ," Miller whispered, "those are ours." He was right. The gear was American issue, scattered with bones that looked wrong. Some of the femurs were too long, too thick. The skulls looked chewed, gnawed-like by something too big to be a man. I couldn't look away. My stomach churned, but my eyes locked on the piles. They weren't random. They were stacked in corners, arranged like trophies. "Negative on comms," Harris muttered, tapping his radio. The headset gave nothing but static. "We're blacked out in here." I tried mine. Just a hiss, like the cave itself was eating the signal. My chest tightened. No backup, no lifeline, just us. Miller's voice broke the silence again. "Do you hear that?" We all froze. At first I thought it was my imagination. Then it came again. Whispers, low, curling through the stone, bouncing from wall to wall. Too faint to understand, but too clear to ignore. I swallowed hard, throat dry. "There's no one here but us." The medic, Smith, shifted uneasily. His light swept over another corner. More bones, stacked higher. He crouched, studying one, and his voice cracked. "This isn't human. Look at the length. Look at the structure." "Stop talking," Davis snapped. His voice was harder now, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. He knew something wasn't right. The air grew colder the deeper we went. I could see my breath now, fogging in front of my NVGs, even though it was late summer outside. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. Every instinct screamed to get out. But my legs kept moving because orders kept us moving. Harris stopped again, his voice a whisper over the net. "I've got movement, front, left side." We swung rifles toward the dark. Nothing but rock and shadow. My finger tightened on the trigger. Then I heard it. A low inhale. Slow, heavy, like something enormous was breathing just beyond the light. I froze in place, skin crawling, stomach twisting into a knot. And that was when the roar shook the cave. The roar tore through the cave like an explosion, so deep it shook the walls and rattled dust from the ceiling. My ears rang, my chest vibrated, and for a second I thought the mountain itself was collapsing. We staggered, lights jerking across the stone, and then it came into view. A shape. Massive. Too big to be a man. Harris shouted, "Contact front," and opened fire, muzzle flashes tearing through the dark. My NVGs flickered with static, cutting in and out, and for a heartbeat I saw it clearly. It was tall, hunched, with matted red hair hanging from its head and shoulders. Its eyes glowed in the green wash of the goggles, reflecting like an animal's but set in a face that was too human. Its teeth caught the light, jagged and wet. Miller froze, rooted in place. He didn't fire, didn't move. The thing lunged forward in one stride, its arms sweeping down like a tree trunk, and Miller disappeared in its grip. His scream cut off as the giant lifted him, slammed him against the rock, and the sound was a wet crack I'll never forget. "Engage! Engage!" Davis bellowed, voice breaking through the chaos. We unloaded everything we had. Rifles rattled, brass clattered against stone, the cave lit with bursts of orange, the air filled with cordite and dust. The round struck, but it barely flinched, thick hide or bone stopping what should have dropped anything else. "Rocket! Rocket now!" Harris shouted, his voice straining over the fire. Smith fumbled with the launcher, his hands shaking. The creature roared again, charging forward, swiping with its free hand. The shockwave of air from its movement knocked me back against the wall. My chest seized in panic. We were ants against a storm. I pulled the trigger until the magazine went dry, the barrel hot and smoking. I slammed in another without thinking, my hands moving on muscle memory. My heart hammered so hard I thought it would break my ribs. Smith finally fired. The rocket struck the giant square in the chest, and the blast filled the tunnel with flame and thunder. The shock punched through me, ears ringing, vision blurred. When the dust thinned, I saw it stagger. One knee bent, shoulders slumped. For a second, I thought it was going down. Relief clawed up my throat. Then it roared again, louder, furious, and hurled Miller's limp body aside like a rag doll. I could barely breathe. My arms ached from firing, but I raised the rifle again. The others screamed, cursed, shot in wild bursts, and every second felt like it was stretching forever. The cave walls shook with each impact, as if the mountain itself was rejecting the fight. Finally, under concentrated fire, it dropped. The giant fell hard, shaking the ground, its roar dying into a ragged growl. Dust rose in a choking cloud. We stood there panting, guns still aimed, every nerve stretched to breaking. My ears were ringing so loud I could barely hear the others. My arms shook. My throat burned from the copper air. "Cease fire," Davis rasped, his voice hoarse. "Hold position." The dust swirled, covering everything in a grey haze. I strained to see, breath tight in my chest. My light cut through slowly. The ground where the body had fallen was torn up, dark with blood. But the giant wasn't there. Gone. Only the echoes of the fight remained, ringing in the cave as if something had taken it away before we could see it die. My gut turned cold. My mind refused to believe what my eyes saw. We had killed it. We had to. But the space in front of me was empty. And in the silence, I thought I heard it breathing again, just out of sight. My gut twisted so hard it felt like I was going to throw up in my mask. Harris broke first. "That's impossible. I saw it go down. We all saw it go down." Davis didn't answer. He just scanned the dark, jaw tight, sweat dripping through the grime on his face. Smith's voice shook. It dragged itself away. "That's the only answer." But there were no drag marks, no footprints leading deeper into the cave. Just silence and that copper stink pressing down on us like a weight. I kept glancing at the spot where Miller's body had been. His gear was still there, his rifle broken in two against the stone. But he was gone too. My chest felt hollow, like something had scooped the breath right out of me. "We're pulling back," Davis finally said, his voice low. "Now." We moved toward the entrance, slow, rifles aimed at the black. Every bootstep echoed like a gunshot. My nerves were shredded, every shadow looked like it was waiting to move. Harris tried his radio again. Just static, a low hiss that crawled inside my skull. "Still blacked out," he muttered. "We're on our own." When the first crackle came, I thought it was more interference. Then a voice bled through, warped, dragging each word like it hurt to speak. "Don't leave." We froze. My skin went ice cold. It wasn't Miller's voice. It wasn't any of ours. Smith whispered, "That came from our net. That was on our channel." Davis snapped, "Ignore it. Keep moving." But I couldn't shake it. The way it had come through so clearly, even when the radios had been dead the whole time. My mind kept circling back to the thought I didn't want to admit. It hadn't been interference. Something was talking to us. The closer we got to the entrance, the heavier the air felt, like the cave was trying to hold us inside. Every step was slower, harder. My chest ached, my legs felt leaden, but I forced them forward. Then the sound hit. A heavy breath, low and slow, coming from the dark behind us. It filled the tunnel, louder than our boots, louder than the static. "Eyes back," Davis barked. We spun as one, rifles aimed, lights cutting across the haze. Nothing, just the cave yawning back at us. But I swear, I saw the dust moving like something massive had just stepped aside out of the beam. "Double time," Davis ordered, his voice cracking now. "Move it." We pushed hard for the mouth of the cave, hearts hammering, lungs burning. My legs pumped like I was running in a nightmare, stuck in slow motion. And then, just as the first sliver of moonlight cut across the stone, I heard it again. Not over the radio, not an echo. Right behind me. "Don't leave." We broke into the night air gasping, stumbling out of the cave like drowning men clawing for the surface. The moon hung pale above the ridgeline, lighting the desert in silver, but it didn't feel safe. The silence followed us, clinging like a shadow, heavier than the gear on our backs. I bent over, sucking in the cold night air. My hands shook against the rifle grip, Every muscle felt drained, but my mind wouldn't stop racing. We had fired everything we had, and it hadn't been enough. Harris was the first to speak, his voice hoarse. That thing, we hit it with rockets. We hit it with everything. It shouldn't be standing. Davis snapped back. Shut it. Gear check now. We're not discussing this in the open. But I couldn't stop seeing Miller's body, the way it disappeared, and the way the cave swallowed the giant's corpse without a trace. It was burned into my brain. The silence, the whispers, the feeling that we were still being watched even out here under the moon. Smith dropped his pack, rifling through for water, his hands trembling so badly he spilled half of it down his chest. He muttered without looking up, "No one's gonna believe us. They'll say it was nerves. They'll say it was the dark." Davis crouched low, scanning the horizon like he expected something to follow. His jaw was locked, eyes wide but sharp. "We're not telling anyone anything. That's an order." Harris bristled. "With respect, Sergeant, you can't expect us to just—" "I said, shut it," Davis hissed. "We lost a man. We're lucky we're still breathing. Command hears this. We're done. You want to be dragged into some black room and never walk out again. Because that's what happens if you run your mouth." The weight of his words sank in. I'd seen men silenced before, stories cut off with NDAs, paperwork that erased missions like they never happened. And deep down, I knew he was right. Still, my stomach churned. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I thought about Miller's laugh during smoke breaks, his nervous grin when he complained about night watch. Now he was gone, and his name would never be written down. We regrouped at the base perimeter just past 0100 hours. Floodlights painted the compound in harsh white, but even there I felt exposed, like something could reach in and snatch us away. Men in unmarked gear were waiting, no patches, no names. They pulled us one by one into separate rooms, asked the same questions over and over. What did you see? What did you fire? How many seconds before it fell? Their voices were flat, eyes cold. When I asked about Miller, the man across from me didn't even blink. There is no record of that name on your roster. I stared at him, heat rising in my chest. That's bullshit. He was standing next to me when it grabbed him. The man leaned forward, his voice quiet but sharp as a blade. "You will not mention this again. Do you understand?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight. But the weight of that stare, the knowledge of what they could do, pinned me in place. My throat locked up, and I just nodded. Afterward, our weapons were taken for inspection. Our mission logs were wiped clean. New patrol rosters were handed out the next morning like nothing had happened. Miller's bunk was stripped bare before sunrise. His name vanished from the board. No one talked about it. Not out loud, but I saw it in the others' eyes. We were all carrying the same memory, the same sound of that roar shaking through our bones. So, that's the end of our video. If you made it this far, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and it's free. And if you want more terrifying encounters like this one, check out the other videos on screen right now. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there. See you soon.